The twin sons of New Haven cast long shadows across the wheat fields as John Baker wiped sweat from his brow. The soil here was good, better than Earth's had been for centuries. 5 years ago, he and Mary had taken a chance on this colony world, hoping to give their daughter a life with open skies and clean air. "Daddy, look what I found." Lily's voice rang out across the field. She ran toward him, her small boots kicking up dust, something clutched in her tiny hands. John knelt down as his daughter reached him. She was almost 7 now, her brown hair pulled back in 2 braids that Mary had carefully done that morning. "It's a space rock," Lily said, opening her palm to reveal a small, shiny stone. "Do you think it came from far away?" John smiled and examined the stone. It was just iron pyrite, fool's gold, but he wouldn't spoil her excitement. "Maybe from the stars themselves," he said, "just like us." The dinner bell rang across the settlement. Mary was calling them home. The family of 3 lived in a simple prefab house like most of the 500 colonists. It wasn't fancy, but it had everything they needed. Mary greeted them at the door, her sleeves rolled up and flour on her apron. "Wash up, you two. Dinner's almost ready." And Frank stopped by with news. "What kind of news?" John asked as he helped Lily wash her hands at the sink. "Some strange readings from the outer system. Probably just traders passing through, but he's put Laura and her security team on alert, just in case." John nodded. Laura White ran a tight ship with the colony's small security force. Mostly they dealt with the occasional wild animal or equipment theft, but everyone knew the galaxy wasn't always a friendly place. After dinner, John lifted Lily onto his shoulders. "Let's see the stars before bed," he said. It was their nightly routine when the weather was clear. They stood in the yard behind their house, looking up at the night sky. New Haven had 3 moons, and tonight all were visible, creating a silvery landscape around them. "Daddy, tell me about Earth again," Lily said, her small hands resting on top of his head. "Earth is the first home of all humans," he began, telling the story she'd heard many times before. "But humans are explorers. We needed to find new homes among the stars. That's why we're here." "And are there others out there?" "Not humans." John nodded slowly. "Yes. Some are friends. Some keep to themselves. And some," he paused, not wanting to frighten her, "some are mean." Lily asked. "Some don't understand humans yet," he said carefully. "That's why we have people like Laura, to keep us safe while we show the galaxy that humans want to be friends." Mary joined them outside, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders against the evening chill. "Time for bed, birthday girl. Tomorrow's your special day." Lily groaned but didn't argue as John lowered her from his shoulders. She paused, looking up at the stars one more time. "Daddy, what's that?" John followed her pointing finger. A small light moved across the stars, too fast and bright to be a shooting star. Then another appeared, and another. "Probably satellites," he said, but a knot formed in his stomach. New Haven only had 2 communication satellites. "John," Mary whispered, gripping his arm. More lights appeared, forming a pattern as they descended. The colony alarm began to wail, its sound cutting through the quiet night. Lights came on across the settlement as colonists stepped outside, looking up at the approaching ships. "Get inside," John said, his voice calm but firm. Mary grabbed the emergency pack. Lily looked up at him, her eyes wide. "Daddy?" "It's okay, sweetheart," he said, picking her up. "Remember what I said about some not understanding humans yet? I think we're about to meet them." As they hurried inside, the night sky of New Haven filled with the massive shapes of ships that blocked out the stars. The Volrics had arrived, and New Haven would never be the same. Morning came with an unnatural silence over New Haven. The massive ships hung in the sky like black mountains, their surfaces reflecting no light. 7 of them now circled the main settlement, each one larger than anything humans had built. In the colony's administration building, Frank Miller paced back and forth. As the head of the colony, all eyes turned to him for answers he didn't have. "We need to try talking to them," he said to Laura White, who stood by the window, her hand resting on her sidearm. "They haven't fired on us yet." Laura shook her head. "We should evacuate the outer farms first. Get people to the underground storage areas. If we run, they might see it as a threat," Frank argued. "This could be a misunderstanding." Outside, colonists gathered in small groups, looking up at the ships with fear and wonder. Children were kept indoors, but Lily Baker pressed her face against her bedroom window, watching. "Mom, are those aliens?" she asked as Mary packed a small bag with clothes and food. "Yes, honey. That's why we need to be ready to go when your father gets back." John had left at dawn to help organize the farmers in their area. He returned as the sun reached its highest point, his face grim. "Frank is trying to make contact," he told Mary in a low voice, "but no one knows who they are or what they want." A loud noise cut through the air, making them all jump. It was like metal grinding against metal, amplified 100 times. Then a voice boomed across the settlement, speaking in a language no human had ever heard. Frank and the colony's communication expert, Ben Ward, worked frantically to translate. Their computer systems were basic, but after 3 more announcements, they managed to piece together some meaning. "They're calling themselves the Volrics," Ben reported to the emergency council that had gathered. "From what I can tell, they're demanding we submit to them as our new rulers." "Submit? This is a human colony," one of the council members protested. "They don't seem to care," Ben replied. "They say we have 1 hour to present our leader for." The translation isn't clear. "Some kind of acknowledgement ceremony." Frank stood up. "I'll go." "No," Laura objected. "We don't know what they'll do to you." But Frank was already moving toward the door. "I have to try. Get everyone ready to move to the storage facilities, just in case." The colonists watched as Frank walked alone to the town square, where a beam of purple light now shone down from the largest ship. He stood in the light, his hands raised to show he carried no weapons. For 5 minutes, nothing happened. Then a cylinder descended from the ship, touching down on the ground with a soft hiss. It opened to reveal a creature that made the watching humans gasp. The Volrics stood nearly 8 feet tall, covered in dark scales that seemed to absorb the sunlight. Its face was reptilian, with 4 yellow eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. 2 smaller arms protruded from its chest, while its main limbs ended in clawed hands. "I am Supreme Subjugator Zrakhthar," the creature announced, its voice now translated through a device it carried. "Your world is now property of the Volric's dominion." Frank attempted to speak, explaining that humans wished for peaceful contact, but the Volrics raised one hand, silencing him. "Your species is unknown to us. Your technology is primitive. Your submission will be simple." The creature pointed to the sky. "Observe." A beam of energy shot from one of the ships toward the horizon. Seconds later, a distant boom echoed across the settlement, followed by a rising cloud of smoke where the small farming outpost of River Bend had been. 200 of your kind have just been erased," the Volrics stated flatly. "Bring us your resources and strongest workers within 1 rotation of your world. The rest will be processed accordingly." As the alien returned to its ship, panic spread through New Haven. John grabbed Mary and Lily, joining the stream of colonists now rushing toward the underground facilities. "Daddy, I'm scared," Lily whispered, clutching her favorite stuffed bear that she had refused to leave behind. "Stay close," John said, his eyes fixed on the dark ships above them. "We need to hurry." The night brought no relief to New Haven. The sky glowed orange from fires burning across the settlement. Volric's troops moved through the streets, their armor making them look like walking tanks. They broke into homes, dragging out colonists who had not fled quickly enough. Underground, in the storage facilities built beneath the grain silos, over 300 colonists huddled in darkness. The concrete walls muffled the sounds from above, but everyone could still hear the occasional boom of weapons and the crack of buildings collapsing. "We can't stay here," Laura whispered to the group leaders. "They're searching systematically. It's only a matter of time before they find the entrance." John nodded, looking around at the frightened faces. Many were women and children from his section of the colony. "The old mining tunnels connect to this facility. We could move the children through there." "What about everyone else?" asked Ben, who had joined them after the attack began. Laura's face hardened. "We need a distraction, something to draw them away from the western side long enough to get people into the tunnels." Mary, who had been listening nearby, stepped forward. "I can help with that. The fuel depot near the eastern fields is still intact. If we could set off those tanks." "That's suicide," John protested, grabbing her arm. Mary looked at him, her eyes filled with determination. "Get Lily and the others to safety. I'll meet you at the old mining office." Before John could argue further, a heavy thud shook dust from the ceiling. The Volrics were testing the ground, looking for hollow spaces. "We're out of time," Laura said. "John, take the first group through the tunnels. Ben, you help Mary. I'll organize the rest here." John found Lily asleep against a wall, clutching her bear. He gently woke her, trying to keep his voice calm. "We're going on a little adventure, sweetie. You need to be very quiet, like we're playing hide and seek." Lily rubbed her eyes. "Where's Mom?" "She's helping others. She'll meet us later," he said, hoping it was true. "Now I need you to be brave and follow me." John led 20 children and a few adults through a narrow maintenance passage that connected to the old mining tunnels. The passage was tight, forcing adults to crouch, but the children moved through easily. Lily stayed right behind her father, her small hand gripping the back of his jacket. Above ground, Mary and Ben had reached the fuel depot. 3 Volric soldiers patrolled nearby, their scaled forms moving with predatory grace. "We just need to break the containment valve," Ben whispered, pointing to a large tank. "The pressure will do the rest." Mary nodded, picking up a piece of broken machinery. "Get ready to run." The explosion was bigger than either had expected. The entire depot went up in a fireball that lit the night sky and shook the ground. Mary was thrown backward by the blast, her ears ringing as she scrambled to her feet. Ben was nowhere to be seen. The distraction worked. Volric's troops rushed toward the explosion, giving the evacuees precious minutes to escape through the tunnels. But in the confusion, Lily became separated from her father when part of a tunnel collapsed. Frightened and alone, she clutched her bear tighter and followed the tunnel upward, remembering her father's instructions to always go up if she got lost underground. The tunnel eventually led her to an exit near the wheat fields, now burning in the night. Lily crouched in a shallow ditch as a Volric's patrol stomped past. Their voices sounded like rocks being crushed. When they moved on, she ran toward a barn that was still standing. Inside, she crawled beneath a fallen beam, making herself as small as possible. "It's okay, Bear," she whispered to her stuffed toy. "Daddy will find us soon." Outside, a Volric scout detected movement in the barn. It approached slowly, weapon ready, its 4 yellow eyes scanning the darkness. It had been ordered to search for humans hiding in outlying buildings. The scout's infrared vision picked up a small heat signature hiding under debris. It moved the beam aside with one powerful arm, revealing the human child. Lily looked up at the towering alien, too terrified to scream. She clutched her bear to her chest and scrambled backward. The Volrics viewed the small human with cold indifference. Another insignificant creature, not even worth taking as a slave. Its orders were clear: eliminate resistance, capture useful specimens, dispose of the rest. It raised its weapon. The emergency beacon from New Haven reached Earth 3 days later. The signal was weak and broken, but the message was clear: the colony was under attack. The transmission included data packets containing the colony's final hours, recorded by automated systems, and the few personal devices still functioning. In the large command center of United Earth Defense in Chicago, Admiral Samantha Cole stood motionless as the final video played on the main screen. The room had fallen silent. 50 military officers watching as a Volric soldier cornered a small human child in a burning barn. The footage, captured by a damaged drone that had continued recording until its power failed, showed the child's final moments. When the screen went dark, Admiral Cole closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, they were like ice. "Get me the president," she said quietly. President William Harper received the news in his office. He watched the same footage, his face growing harder with each frame. When it ended, he looked at his advisors. "How many people were on New Haven?" he asked. 512, sir," replied Defense Secretary Alan Price. 87 of them were children. The president nodded once. "And now we know what we're dealing with." He turned to his communication officer. "I need to address the nation, the whole planet." Within an hour, screens across Earth and every human colony showed the president's face. His usual warm smile was gone. "My fellow humans," he began, "today we learned that our colony on New Haven has fallen to an alien force known as the Volrics. These beings arrived without warning or provocation and destroyed a peaceful settlement." He paused, his jaw tightening before he continued. "I will not show you most of what we have received. It is too painful, but there is one thing all humans must see to understand what we now face." The screen changed to show a single still image. A small girl clutching a teddy bear, looking up at a towering scaled creature with a weapon pointed at her. The president's voice continued over the image. Her name was Lily Baker. She was 7 years old. Across Earth and the colonies, people stopped what they were doing. In homes, workplaces, and public spaces, humans stared at screens in shocked silence. "The Volrics have made a fatal mistake," the president continued. "They believed they were attacking a simple farming colony. They did not know who we are, or what they have awakened." At military bases around the solar system, commanders received a simple coded message. Fenrir Protocol activated. Within minutes, ships that had appeared civilian or scientific began transforming. Hidden weapon systems came online. Armor plates shifted into place. Crews moved with practiced precision to battle stations. In orbital shipyards around Mars, massive hangar doors opened to reveal vessels that officially didn't exist. These ships, black and sleek, had been built in secret over decades, a precaution against a day that many had hoped would never come. Admiral Cole stood on the bridge of the U.S. Valkyrie, the first ship of its class, watching as her crew prepared for departure. Her second-in-command, Captain Ryan Webb, approached with a datapad. "All ships report ready, Admiral. The fleet will be assembled within 6 hours." Cole nodded. "And the special packages?" "Being loaded now. Project Mjolnir is ready for deployment." Across human space, a transformation was taking place. Factories that had produced farm equipment now manufactured armor and weapons. Research stations revealed their true purposes as military installations. Ships changed course, converging on predetermined points. In a small apartment in Boston, John Baker watched the president's address, his face wet with tears. He had made it back to Earth with other survivors on a rescue ship, but Mary was still missing, and Lily. His phone rang. The caller ID showed a government number. "Mr. Baker, this is General Chris Daniels. I need you to come in. We're putting together a special team, and we need people who were on New Haven. People who can identify the Volrics up close." "Up close?" John asked. The general's voice was flat. "Yes, sir. Very close. We're going hunting." Supreme Subjugator Zrakhthar stood on the bridge of his command ship, pleased with the success of the New Haven operation. The human colony had fallen quickly, with minimal Volrics casualties. The stronger humans had been taken for slave processing, while the rest were eliminated. Resources from the planet were already being loaded onto transport ships. "Supreme Subjugator, we have detected 3 vessels approaching from the edge of the system," reported his sensor officer. "They appear to be human in design." Zrakhthar made a sound that might have been a laugh. "They have come to beg for mercy." "How amusing." He turned to his weapons officer. Send 3 cruisers to intercept. Kill 1 ship as a demonstration, then allow the others to approach so they may surrender properly. 3 Volrix battlecruisers broke formation and moved toward the incoming human ships. Each cruiser was heavily armed, capable of destroying small planets. Against primitive human vessels, they expected an easy victory. The lead Volrix cruiser fired a warning shot across the bow of the human ships. The standard procedure was to demonstrate power, then accept surrender. No surrender came. Instead, the human vessels accelerated. The central ship, larger than the others, broadcast a message on all frequencies. The face of Captain Daniel Ross appeared on the Volrix screens. "I am Captain Daniel Ross of the U.S. Valkyrie. My niece lived on New Haven." His voice was calm, but his eyes burned with cold fury. "You will not be given the opportunity to surrender." Before the Volrix could respond, the human ships vanished from their sensors. "Where did they go?" Zrakthar demanded. "Find them." "Supreme Subjugator, our forward cruiser reports multiple impacts," the communication officer said, confusion in his voice. "They cannot see what is hitting them." On the lead Volrix cruiser, chaos erupted as explosions ripped through the ship's hull. Something was attacking them, but their sensors showed nothing. Then, for a brief moment, a black ship appeared alongside them, attaching devices to their hull before vanishing again. The Volrix cruiser commander tried to call for help, but all communications were being blocked. His ship's engines failed, weapons systems went offline, and life support began to shut down. From the Valkyrie, Admiral Cole watched the operation with clinical detachment. The ship's stealth system, developed over decades in secret, was working perfectly. The Mjolnir devices attached to the Volrix ships were doing their job, systematically destroying vital systems without completely obliterating the vessels. "Admiral, all 3 enemy cruisers have been neutralized," reported Captain Webb. "Boarding teams are ready." Cole nodded. "Proceed with Phase 2. I want prisoners and intel. And remind all teams to recover any items from New Haven." Across the Volrix fleet, confusion turned to alarm as more human ships appeared from nowhere. These weren't the primitive vessels they had expected, but advanced warships with technology the Volrix had never encountered. In his command ship, Zrakthar received frantic messages from his fleet. Ships were being picked off one by one, disabled rather than destroyed. The humans were boarding the crippled vessels, taking control with shocking efficiency. "This is impossible," he hissed. "They are primitives." Their colony had almost no defenses. His tactical officer, sweating with fear, looked up from his console. "Supreme Subjugator, we must retreat. The humans are using technology we cannot detect or counter." For the first time in his long career of conquest, Zrakthar felt fear. He gave the order to withdraw, but as his ship turned to flee, 5 human vessels appeared around it, boxing it in. Admiral Cole's voice came through on all channels. "Supreme Subjugator Zrakthar, this is Admiral Samantha Cole of United Earth Defense. Your fleet is disabled. Your forces on New Haven are being eliminated as I speak." Cole paused before continuing, her voice dropping lower. "There will be no retreat. No surrender. No mercy. You killed our children." On the surface of New Haven, human special forces moved through the ruins. They wore black armor that seemed to absorb light, making them nearly invisible in the shadows. Each soldier had something attached to their gear: a small toy, a doll, or a child's drawing from the colony. John Baker moved with one such team, guiding them through the settlement he once called home. On his chest plate was a small burned teddy bear, recovered from the ashes of a barn. Word of the disaster at New Haven spread quickly through the Volrix Empire. 26 battlecruisers lost, with no survivors. An entire invasion force wiped out. Supreme Subjugator Zrakthar, one of their most decorated commanders, captured or killed. Nothing like this had happened in the 800 years of Volrix expansion. In the Imperial Palace on the Volrix homeworld of Draxar, Emperor Vexcor raged at his generals. His massive tail smashed against the floor, cracking the stone. "How is this possible?" he roared. "You told me these humans were primitive farmers." Grand General Maztur bowed low, his scales pale with fear. "The colony was primitive, Emperor. But it seems the humans hid their true capabilities. Our intelligence was flawed. Flawed." The Emperor's 4 eyes narrowed to slits. "An entire battle group destroyed is more than a flaw." He turned to his communication officer. "Show me what we know of these humans." The officer activated a large screen, displaying images of Earth and its colonies. "The humans come from this planet. They have settled 27 worlds, all seemingly for agriculture or mining. Until now, they appeared to have only basic space travel and defensive capabilities." "A deception," the Emperor hissed. "A clever one. What of our other operations near human space?" The room fell silent. Finally, the intelligence director spoke. "We have lost contact with all of them, Emperor. 15 outposts, 8 mining operations, and 3 forward bases, all silent within the last 14 days." The Emperor's rage faded, replaced by something the Volrics rarely felt: worry. "And what of the subjugation fleet sent to their home system?" "No word since they entered human territory," the Grand General admitted. "We must assume they have been destroyed as well." On the other side of the galaxy, that assumption proved correct. Admiral Cole stood on the bridge of the Valkyrie, watching as the last Volric's dreadnought in Earth's solar system burned. Her fleet had suffered losses, but far fewer than expected. The Volrics, for all their ferocity, had never faced an enemy who could match their technology. "Admiral," Captain Webb approached with a datapad. "We've decoded more of their communication logs. They'd been conquering species across the galaxy for centuries. At least 30 civilizations have fallen to them." Cole nodded. "And now those civilizations will learn that the Volrics are not invincible. Begin Phase 3. Across the galaxy, other species who had suffered under Volric's rule were noticing something strange. The feared Volric ships that patrolled their systems had disappeared. Communication centers went silent. For the first time in living memory, there were no Volrics watching over them. On the world of Nenta, the bird-like Avriel gathered in their secret meeting places, sharing whispered news. A Volric's battle station orbiting their world had suddenly gone dark, its lights blinking out one by one. "They say new ships came," one elder chirped softly. "Black ships that could not be seen on sensors. They say the Volrics tried to flee, but these newcomers gave no mercy." In the Volric's prison world of Krell, the insectoid Cythery noticed the guard patrols had stopped. Power to the force fields failed. When they cautiously emerged from their cells, they found the Volric's guards dead, killed with surgical precision. On the walls of the prison, someone had painted a strange symbol, a small bear with a circle around it, crossed by a lightning bolt. Back on the Volric's homeworld, Emperor Vexcor received a secure transmission from his farthest outpost. The commander there was panicking. "Emperor, they are coming. The humans know where our homeworld is. They have assembled a fleet like nothing we have ever seen." The transmission showed grainy footage of hundreds of black ships moving in perfect formation. "They do not respond to our communications. They destroy everything in their path. They leave only one message, repeated over and over." "What message?" the Emperor demanded. The commander's voice shook. She was only 7. The transmission cut off abruptly. The Emperor turned to his advisors, who stood frozen in shock. "Prepare all defenses," he ordered. "Recall every ship. We will make these humans pay for their insolence." But as the Volric's military scrambled to defend their homeworld, many of their ships discovered they could not return. Jump points were blocked. Navigation systems failed mysteriously. Communication relays had been destroyed. For the first time in their history, the Volrics understood what their victims had felt: the helpless realization that a superior force was coming, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. The skies of Draxar filled with the shapes of human warships. They appeared suddenly, bypassing the outer defense grid that had protected the Volrix homeworld for centuries. Nearly 500 vessels took position in a perfect sphere around the planet, their black hulls absorbing the light of the system's twin suns. In the Imperial Palace, Emperor Vexcor watched with growing dread as his finest remaining ships moved to intercept the human fleet. 300 Volrix vessels, from nimble fighters to massive dreadnoughts, formed a defensive line. "They are outnumbered," the Emperor said, trying to sound confident, "and they fight on our territory." Grand General Maztur nodded, but his eyes showed doubt. "The humans have not attacked yet. They simply wait." On the bridge of the U.S. Valkyrie, Admiral Cole stood with her hands clasped behind her back. The main screen showed the Volrix defense fleet arrayed before them. "They're expecting us to attack, Admiral," Captain Webb said. "Standard military doctrine would be to engage now, while we have surprise on our side." Cole shook her head. "We're not here for a battle, Captain. We're here for justice." She turned to her communication officer. "Open a channel to the entire Volrix fleet. Let them all hear." Across the Volrix ships, screens flickered to life. Admiral Cole's face appeared, her expression calm and cold. "Attention Volrix forces. This is Admiral Samantha Cole of United Earth Defense. You have committed crimes against humanity and numerous other species. We are not here to negotiate or accept surrender." She paused, letting her words sink in. Then she stepped aside, and the screen showed only a single image. The recording from New Haven of Lily Baker clutching her teddy bear as the Volrix soldier raised its weapon. "You killed our children," Cole's voice continued over the image. "Now you will face the consequences." The transmission ended. For several minutes, nothing happened. The Volrix fleet waited nervously, weapons charged and ready. Then, without warning, tiny objects detached from the human ships. Thousands of them, each no bigger than a human hand, streaked toward the Volrix fleet. "What are they doing?" the Emperor demanded, watching from his command center. His question was answered as the small devices attached themselves to Volrix ships. They weren't weapons, at least not directly. They were override modules, using technology stolen from captured Volrix vessels. One by one, the Volrix ships went dark. Engines shut down, weapon systems deactivated, life support continued, but nothing else functioned. "They're disabling our fleet without destroying it," Grand General Maztur whispered in horror. "They want us alive." As the last Volrix defense ship went dark, a single human vessel broke formation and descended toward the Imperial Palace. It was smaller than the warships, sleek and fast, bearing the image of a teddy bear on its hull. The human ship landed in the great courtyard of the palace. Volrix guards formed a defensive line, weapons ready. The Emperor himself came forward, flanked by his elite protectors. He would not hide while his world fell. The ship's door opened and a ramp extended. Admiral Cole walked down, accompanied by 6 soldiers in black armor. Each soldier carried a standard Earth military weapon, but they also wore something else, small items attached to their armor. A child's drawing, a toy, a tiny shoe. Following them was a human male the Emperor did not recognize. Unlike the others, he wore no armor, only a simple uniform. On his chest was a burned and damaged stuffed bear. "Emperor Vexcor," Admiral Cole said, her voice carrying across the courtyard. "Your empire has fallen. Your conquered worlds have been liberated. Your military has been neutralized." The Emperor drew himself up to his full height, nearly 12 feet tall, looking down at the humans. "What do you want? Resources, technology, territory. Name your price for leaving our homeworld intact." Admiral Cole's expression didn't change. She turned to the man beside her. "Mr. Baker, would you like to respond to the Emperor's offer?" John Baker stepped forward, holding the small burned bear in his hands. His eyes met the Emperor's 4 yellow ones without fear. "My name is John Baker," he said quietly. "This belonged to my daughter, Lily. She was 7 years old when your soldiers killed her on New Haven." He held up the bear for the emperor to see. There is no price. 1 year after the fall of the Volrix Empire, the colony of New Haven was reborn, not as it was before, but as something new. The burned fields had been replanted. New buildings stood where old ones had fallen. But at the center of the main settlement was something that had not existed before, a garden surrounding a small statue. The statue depicted a little girl holding a teddy bear. Around the base were planted flowers from 100 different worlds, gifts from species who had suffered under Volrix rule and now knew freedom. On this day, the garden was filled with visitors. Representatives from 50 different species had gathered, their diverse forms creating a living rainbow around the memorial. They had come for the official dedication ceremony and to witness the signing of what many were calling the New Haven Accord. Admiral Cole, now wearing the formal white uniform of the United Earth Diplomatic Corps, stood on a small platform before the statue. Beside her were the leaders of the former Volrix-dominated worlds. 1 year ago, Cole began, humanity revealed itself to the galaxy in a way we had hoped would never be necessary. For generations, we explored the stars quietly, watching and learning. We built our colonies, developed our technology, and prepared for a day we prayed would never come. She looked out at the assembled representatives, her eyes finding the tall, reptilian form of former Grand General Maztur, now representing a transformed Volrix society. We knew there were dangers among the stars. We heard stories of the Volrix and their conquests. But we believed that we could remain peaceful, that we could build and grow without showing our teeth. She paused, looking at the statue. We were wrong, and a child paid the price for our mistake. From the front row, John and Mary Baker watched in silence. Mary had been found alive 3 days after the Battle of New Haven, badly injured but surviving in the ruins of the fuel depot. The couple now served as the colony's administrators, helping to rebuild what had been lost. Today, Cole continued, we come together not to celebrate a victory, but to ensure this never happens again. The New Haven Accord establishes a council of all sentient species, where differences can be resolved without bloodshed, where the strong protect the weak, and where children of all kinds can grow up without fear. One by one, the representatives came forward to sign the document. Last was Maztur, the former Volrix general. When he approached the table, a murmur ran through the crowd. Many still feared and hated the Volrix. Maztur paused before the statue, his scaled head bowing low. My people lived by conquest for so long that we forgot what it meant to build, he said, his voice carrying across the garden. We mistook cruelty for strength. The humans showed us true strength, not just in battle, but in justice. He signed the document, then placed a small carved stone at the base of the statue. It was a Volrix symbol for atonement. As the ceremony ended and the delegates began to mingle, a small group of children ran through the garden, playing a game. They were not all human. Some had scales, others feathers. One even floated on a cushion of air. But they played together, their laughter filling the air where once there had been screams. Mary Baker watched them, her hand finding John's. She would have liked this, she said softly. John nodded, looking at the statue of their daughter. The setting sun caught the metal, making it shine like gold. This isn't what we wanted for her, but maybe it's what she would have wanted for everyone else. As darkness fell, lights came on around the garden, illuminating the statue and the plaque at its base. Visitors paused to read the simple words engraved there. Lily Baker. She was only 7. Her life was worth more than an empire. And above New Haven, the stars shone down on a galaxy forever changed by one small human child and what humanity had done in her name. The story of Lily Baker and the fall of the Volrix spread across the stars. On 100 worlds, parents told their children about the humans, a species that valued its young so highly that they would tear down an empire to avenge a single child. They told their children to be kind to humans, to respect them, and above all, to remember that humans protect their young, and by extension, all children of all species, with a fierceness that had unleashed hell itself upon those who forgot this most important lesson.